Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Just Daf It, Daf Yomi Share. We're learning Kesubos Mem Ches today, number 48. We have an unbelievable share for you today. We're going to be talking more about Sheder Ksusa, Nasa, the Chiyuvim of the husband to the wife. And we're going to start a new Mishnah, which talks about a topic that people are very familiar with, but I think everyone does it wrong. When you get married, right, the chassan walks down, the kala walks down, right? The groom or the bride, they walk down. Who accompanies them down the aisle to the chuppah? Some people, they're really from people here in Israel, they do boy and boy, meaning, let's say both parents are alive, so the father of the kala and the father of the chassan accompany the man, and the woman is accompanied by her mother and her mother-in-law, future mother-in-law. Where I come from, traditionally, it's usually the parents. The chassan go with the chassan, with the groom, and the bride is with her parents. I know it's priestess and things like that, but at my wedding, my parents are modern Orthodox, and my wife's family is Haredi. So some Haredim are very makbid. You should do fathers with the chassan and mothers with the kala. My parents asked my father-in-law if they could walk down together. My father-in-law was very gracious. He wasn't makbid on dafka. It has to be father and father. Whatever they did, he said, whatever you want makes you happy, he'll do. So my parents walked me down to the chuppah, and my wife's parents walked her down to the chuppah. Those are the two options. But we're going to see from the Gemara that there's actually a third option, and that's the correct way to do it. And most people don't know this. Most people don't think the Gemara is talking about this, but I'm telling you something new, a novelty over here, and we're going to discuss this more, the ramifications of that. And Ian with Ben C on the Ian Shir, we're going to discuss more why it is like that, why the chassan gets accompanied by mysterious people on the kala, by other mysterious people. Not so mysterious, but you'll have to figure it out yourself or wait for a second. So let's get the Gemara. Let's start from Mem Ches and Aleph. About 6 lines down, Tanya of Yosef, Sheira Zukir of Basar. We're learning about this pasuk about Sheira Ksusa Manasa Ligra. Midoraisa, a husband is obligated to give his wife Sheira Ksusa Manasa. Right? We explained yesterday there's 2 types of nourishment, mizonos. There's needs and there's wants. Right? The basic needs is Midoraisa. At most, Sheira means food, according to the Tanakam, according to the Rabbanon. Ksusa means clothing. Onasa means to be together with your wife at the right time. So, Tana Yosef Sheira Zu Kirav Basar. Another explanation is Sheira. There was one opinion Sheira actually meant to be together with your wife. The opposite, I know Nasa was meant food. So Sheira Zu Kirav Basar. It's not enough to just be together with your wife. You also, when you're together with your wife, take your clothes off. You can't be in your clothes while you're together with your wife. Shaloyinik ba minag parsim. Like the Persians, they wear clothing when they're together with their wives. I don't know if it means lingerie or they're fully dressed in their pajamas. I don't know. It's a proof to Rav Huna. They get married. He says, I can't be like my wife. It's too much taiva. Taking her clothes off. He says, I want to wear pajamas. I want to wear, a coat. I want to wear sweatpants. I want to wear a ski suit. I want an astronaut. I want me and my wife to be dressed up as astronauts when we're together. It's a problem. I mean, he has to get out of the marriage. We force him. He has to give a ksuba to his wife. Now his wife is the one who wants to be an astronaut in the astronaut suit, and the husband wants to be naked. So then I think you get out of the marriage, right, without getting a ksuba. Here we're talking about where the husband is the one who wants to be an astronaut. So maybe he just bought a ticket on Elon Musk's SpaceX program. He just went to Mars. He came back. He liked the spacesuit so much. Doesn't matter. You have to leave the marriage and you have to get Rexula. Hudo Omer, I feel Ani Israel. He just says, even in Ani in Israel, Mishnah says you have to, when you bury her, one of the obligations of the husband to his wife is he has to pay for her burial. Not just a regular burial, not just to actually bury her in the ground, buy a burial plot and a coffin, maybe in America. He has to actually provide someone to eulogize her and people to play musical instruments. This is not so common to play musical instruments, dirges, sad songs at a wedding. The Mishnah says you're supposed to do it. Rabbi Yehuda said you have to at least have 2 flute players and 1 eulogizer to pay for that also. That's included in your fee. So the Tanakama holds the Tanakama who argues Rabbi Yehuda. You don't know. Hey, what's the case? Either Archa, if her family has a custom to have musical accompaniment and a professional eulogizer, my time Tanakama, right? He has to provide his wife whatever she was accustomed to when she grew up. Everyone agrees to that. The Amar lo v'id lava orcha. If it wasn't her custom, my time Rehuda, why did Rehuda necessitate it? The Shrika could go into orcha didei v'lav orcha dida. She grew up in a poor family. He grew up in a rich family where they had flute players at the wedding, at the eulogies, at the funerals, and professional eulogizers. You don't hear about this too much nowadays. You have professional speakers, but professional eulogizers, you don't hear about that anymore. I think they should start this business again. There's some people that really give a good eulogy. I remember I gave 1 eulogy in my life. My uncle died about 20 years ago. I was in YU. I was about 19 or 20 years old. He died early. He had Crohn's for many years. Since he was 12, he had Crohn's disease, a very severe case of it. He died early at 47, not married, and I delivered a eulogy. I stayed up the whole night thinking about my eulogy. I remember going on a subway from Manhattan to Queens, from YU to Queens, to the chapel over there to bury him, and not to eulogize him, and after they buried him. And everyone said their eulogy. Me, I wanted to do mitzvahs behidr. I was really getting from at that point. I spent so much time preparing this. I remember on the subway, I'm looking in the Gemaras trying to find sources for this. And I have to tell you, I gave one of the best eulogies of all time. I quoted the Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara says that Rov Sadiqim Misasan die because of Chole Me'ayim. Most Sadiqim, they end up dying of Chole Me'ayim. I said, Miyad Tzadikim, right? Only a few of the Tzadikim, Chayim, they live the Chole Me'ayim. He lived through Chole Me'ayim. He had the worst case of Chole Me'ayim, intestinal problems with Crohn's disease. But he persevered and he lived. He even got smicha with a really bad case, from 12, stunted his growth. And I gave that eulogy. I was crying during the eulogy. I kept on repeating, Miyud Tzadikim Chayein B'chol Me'ayim. I came up with this big chiddush. I was a professional eulogizer. I've never eulogized someone until that point. After that point, so that was my eulogy that I gave, and I got so many compliments after. What a eulogy! And there were older people there, that eulogized them, 5 or 6 people. And I was the best one that came after me. They heard that, they're like, "Whoa, that was an amazing eulogy." I got so much credit, and because I was such an unav back then. When someone came over to me, I would run the other way. What are you talking about? No. I don't want a coffee. I'm not asking for a coffee. Like I don't know what they're trying to say. Oh, you gave a good eulogy? What eulogy? What are you talking about? I was at the baseball game. So anyway, I was an unav, and I gave the best eulogy. So maybe if they bring back professional eulogizers, call me up, send me an email. I'll be happy to come for a not nominal fee. You got to pay me at least $1,000 for a funeral. Give me a eulogy. Give me some preparation. Anyway, back in the time of the Gemara, they're professional eulogizers. So the Gemara says it was the minhag in her family, and his family, was to have this accompaniment to the burial. She didn't. So my time with the Yehuda. L'sricha going to orchei didei v'lo orchei didei. Tanakama saraki amrina olim almenei ready simo. The Gemara says, right, when the status that he has to provide things for her, food, clothing, anything that she needs in the marriage to live with, goes by the rule is that whatever he was accustomed to growing up, and even if she wasn't accustomed to, he has to provide his status. But if he had a lesser status growing up, she was rich, he has to also provide a richer status for her. She doesn't go down because she gets married to him. Now you only think during their lifetime. Allah Harmisa, after she dies, lo. Tanakama says, no, you can just give her whatever her family was accustomed. She came from a poor family. Ruda Sabar, Afil Harmisa, even Harmisa, Amar of Kisam, or Marukva, Halacha Rehuda, the halacha applies even Harmisa, even the Kfur, he has to provide his higher status. Amar of Kisam, or Marukva, Misha Nishtata, based in Yardlan, Nachaz of Zanim, and Faras, and Ishto. Someone who becomes a lunatic, he becomes crazy, and he becomes psychiatric. So based in, now he has an obligation to feed his wife, and the minhag is to feed your children also. So based in goes into his bank account, and they feed his wife and his children. And it's something else. We'll see what that is in a second. Why is this different? The following price. He didn't have psychiatric problems. He went to an island by himself for business dealings. The Necker Island, business dealing with Richard Branson. He hasn't come back for a couple of months. His wife says, I need to go to Gourmet Gilad. I need some food. Based on the Yorla Nechasim Zanim Faras and Ishto, they unlock his bank account and they provide nourishment for his wife. They don't provide food for his children, not for this other thing. So what's the difference? Why in the case of Nishtata, they do provide these things for the children and Davar Acher, and when he went to an island, they don't. It's a very easy distinction. When he becomes crazy, so he didn't plan on becoming crazy, so we can assume his intention was to do whatever he's done until now, including feeding his children and this Davar Acher. However, when he goes on an island, he could have instructed people to feed his children. He didn't do that, so therefore we assume he doesn't want to do it. And it's later, you don't have to feed your children. Unless your wife is nursing, then you have to pay her food for your wife. She should have the milk to nurse her child. So, my davarach. What is this davarach in these brises? It means tachshitim, accessories, right? Jewelry, a nice pocketbook. Rav Yosef Amar tzedakah. He says it means philanthropy. He has to give tzedakah if he's a rich guy. My damar tachshit. The one that says tachshit kol shekain tzedakah, right? Certainly, if you don't have to, when you go to a private island, go to an island by yourself, and you didn't give instructions to give these things to your wife, right? If you don't have to tachshitim, certainly you have to give tzedakah. The one that says you don't have to give tzedakah, I will tachshit yavin. Even if you go away, you didn't instruct her. We assume you'd want to give it. We don't assume that his wife would want to not look good. A husband wants his wife to look good. Everyone says, when you get married, the wife is supposed to wear makeup in the house, but not out of the house. She's supposed to look like she's supposed to look terrible when she goes out. Don't wear makeup in the street because it's other men. Don't put on your sheitel. When your husband comes to the house, you gotta wear the sheitel. You gotta dress up. No, here the Gemara says he's on a different island. Still, the husband wants his wife to look good, right? I think it's the opposite. A woman, when she goes out in public, if she's showing her face to a lot of people, it's embarrassing for her if she's not dressed up, if she's not wearing a sheitel, she doesn't look good, she doesn't wear makeup in the house, whatever. She's in private. You don't have to worry so much. So, Amar Rav Chia Barav and Amar Rav Huna, Mishal Nilas Yam Mesa Ishto. He goes overseas. His wife dies. Based on the Nechasev, V'koven Asal L'Fich Vodo. They bury her according to his honor, according to his status in life. L'Fich Vodo, L'Fich Vodo. Aren't we concerned about her status, what her family, the family that she comes from, is accustomed to in burial? Ema af l'fich vodo, say also l'fich vodo, that even though her status and her family, she comes from a poor family, she wouldn't be entitled to that as a burial because she's married to the guy. So therefore, if he comes from a higher class, so therefore she gets a burial on a higher status. Like we said before, we pass on Yehuda, Amar of Masna, Omer. In Mesa, someone says, if my wife dies, lo tzipruim in a chasav, right? When you die before your wife, so your wife gets a ksuba, right? She gets the ksuba, the manam asayim, tosefes, whatever you gave her, right? If he instructs, he says, I don't want to bury her from whatever property I left over, my estate. Shomila, we listen to him. So the Gemara is, Ma'ishnak yamar, the nafli nachsi nichsi kami yasme, kilo amar nami nichsi kami yasme ramu. Even if he doesn't say anything, right? Who does the estate belong to? Who inherits his estate? The ksuva is collected by his wife, but his estate the rest of his possessions go to his children or his Yorshim. So his Yorshim don't have the obligations of Kesubos to bury her. So even if he doesn't say anything, they don't have to bury her. They don't have to pay for her burial. Ella, what does he mean to say? Omer, im mace who? If he says, if I die, look room in a chasav, he says, don't bury me from my estate, from my money in my bank account. Ain't shomelo. We don't listen to him. Lav kol imanu sheyasher esbana v'yapil out small at tzibor. If he has the money to pay for his own funeral, it's not fair to say, okay, I don't want to be buried. Who's going to bury him? Right? It's going to be mutal al tzibor. The whole congregation, the whole community is going to have to pay for his burial. He has the money. You can't just make your children rich and take stock by being buried by the community. We go into his bank account and we bury him from his own funds. The Mishnah says, "La'olam hi b'rshus ha'av ad shedikanes l'rshus habal l'nesuin." She remains in her father's house until she goes into the rshus of her husband l'nesuin. What does that mean? Masar av l'shluch habal, right? It's a very strange case. Like when I was learning this Gemara the first time, I didn't understand what it means. Masar av l'shluch habal. What does it mean? She's walking all the way from her father's house. Her father lives in Woodmere in the 5 towns, and she's going all the way to Lawrence, another one of the 5 towns. So he sends shluchim with her to her new father-in-law's house. Like, what's going on over here? I think it means that the common thing at a wedding when you walk the chassan and the kala down. Masrav l'shluchei abal, right? The father gives her over. Shluchei abal. Who's shluchei abal? His parents, right? His parents are shluchei abal. Who walks the kala down? Not her parents, and not both mothers. No, the parents of the chassan. The parents of the chassan walk the kala down, and the parents of the kala walk the chassan down. So, Masar l'shluchei abal, the father gives her over to the shluchei abal, the parents of the husband. Arehi b'rshus abal. She already enters rshus abal. Halacha, we'll see in the Gemara what halachic meaning that is. Halacha ab im shluchei abal. Let's say the father couldn't let go of his daughter. He went along with his future mechutanim, his future in-laws. O shahalchu shluchei av im shluchei abal, or right, the parents, right, the husband's parents went with the mother, the bride's parents went with the shluchei av. They walked them together, 4 parents together. Harei b'shus av, she still remains in the shus av. Masha shluchei av shluchei abal. However, once she's given over to shluchei abal, to the shluchim of the parents of the groom, harei here b'shus abal, she's already in shus abal. We'll see in the Gemara what that means. This is even before they go into the chuppah, even before the canopy. The Gemara says, "My la'olam." Why did it say this word la'olam? Afuki and Mishnah Rishona comes to tell you the lachas nali Mishnah Rishona. We're going to learn the Mishnah Rishona in a couple of dap in the stand. If they set a date to get married, and for some reason an onus happens, like we learned in that base, and they can't get married, so technically the Mishnah Rishona says the first psak halacha was that she gets to eat from his bank account, and she gets to eat truma if she's Israelis married to a Kohen. Kamash plan la'olam, tell you not like Mishnah Rishona, the lachas of Mishnah Achronim, midrabanan, she doesn't get to eat at that point because of Gzeira derabanan. We'll see why in Daf Nun Zayin, Daf 57, we'll see the 2 reasons why. Once he gives her over, she's now in the reshus and domain of her husband. Rav says it entitles the husband to everything except she can't eat truma. Ravasi says now also when she is entrusted to the hands of the shluchei abal and his parents, she can even eat truma. Right? The Mishnah is la'olam. She's gone to the chuppah. Then we just say la'olam comes to tell me she doesn't get the truma. Don't go after something that can be interpreted the other way. Right? You can say to answer this question, even though this is la'olam, right? That was talking about before the Masir. But once the Masir happens, they hand her over to the shluchei abal, to his parents. So that is like going into the chuppah, and therefore it's no longer a problem. They didn't make an Gzeira derabanan of they can't eat truma. The 2 reasons Gzeira derabanan is because if she's not married yet, she might give it to her siblings. The other Gzeira was because she might find a psula mum with her, and therefore the mibata al mekach, and therefore it'll be chamel mafreya retroactively that a Yisraelis ate truma. She's not allowed to eat truma unless she's married to the guy. So, Shmuel says the Rushasa. the only thing that happens Messiah when you give it over to the parents of the chassan is the only thing that is different is the Yerusha. We'll see that means the dowry, whatever the dowry that the father-in-law gave to the chassan, that he inherits that if she were to die after that. He says the ksuva. Ksuvasa mai. What does ksuva mean? If it means that if she were to die, he inherits her. Hani to Shmuel. That's what Shmuel just said. He gets the dowry. Amar Ravina Lomar Ksuvasa ma'achar mana. He's a different halacha that once she's Masira to the husband's parents, so therefore she's considered already married, and if they get divorced or something at that point, so if she marries someone else, she's already only entitled to a mana from the second husband, even not nechas or lachupa. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Chanina, Ami Tarvayu, Misrasa lakol af l'truma. They said, like the opinion before, the Masira is valid for everything, even for eating truma. Mesive, a brisa which contradicts is halacha avim shluchei abal. The father went with the shluchei abal. Shahalchu shluchei avim shluchei abal. The shluchim of the father went with the shluchei abal. Sha'isa la'chatzar b'derech b'nechasa imo lolin. Or she owned a place, a courtyard in the derech. I don't know what this means, a courtyard. I would say a courtyard by Marriott. It's a type of cheap hotel by Marriott hotel chains. If she paid for the hotel room, right? They were in a hotel room before they went to the chuppah. And they went to sleep there. Even though the ksuva, the document, is already in her husband's house, Mesa Avia Yorsha. If she were to die at that point, her father still inherits her. In the following case, however, when the father gives her over to the shluchim of the husband, or the father's the shluchim of the father give over to the shluchim of the baal, or they went to a courtyard by Marriott, and they were together they slept together in the same hotel room for the purpose of marriage. Even though the actual document is still in her father's house, right? Her husband inherits whatever he was supposed to inherit, the dowry. The Bryce clearly is only for the dowry of al truma, until she goes into the wedding canopy. She doesn't get truma. It's a disproof of all the Amoraim who said the Masira helps for everything. We see it only helps for the dowry. Hagova kasha. So the Gemara has proven basically only he gets the dowry. Hagova kasha. Amar nichsal lolin imol lolin. This brisa is difficult, right? The first part says if she went into the hotel room, courtyard by Marriott to sleep, time with the lolin. Because they went to sleep. How stumble shame is suing. If they didn't stipulate, we're just going to sleep there, right? You could assume they're doing it for the purpose of marriage, to be together. Ema seifa, say the end. When they went there, they had in mind when they were signing up for the hotel room to be together and get married. Hastama lalin, right? If they didn't say anything, they didn't have anything in mind. We assume they did it just to sleep there for the night, and it's not like they got married. No, it's just general statements. If she's paying for the room, then we assume it's just to sleep there. Once the husband's paying, then he's suing, and then he intends to be together with her and get married. If the father gave over to the shluchim of the husband, his parents, to walk down the aisle already, she had cold feet, and she ran away from the wedding, and she went together with another man. She's not called a Nara Murasa, even if she was a Nara, and she was not together with another man before. She's a psula. It doesn't matter. She gets chenek. It's adultery. That's judged by chenek, not skill. Minani where we know this. Amar v'ami bar chama amar kra. Liz knows beis avia. It's by Nara Murasa. Liz beis avia. Prat l'shem masra v'shluchim abal. Has to be in her father's house. Once the father gives her over to the shluchim of the husband, right, to walk down the aisle, she's no longer in the father's house. How do you know it's not coming to exclude a case where they went under the wedding canopy and there was no bia yet? But in the case of just Masira, where they didn't get under the wedding canopy yet, then she would get skila if she committed adultery. Amar Rava, Amar Li, Ami told me, Chuppah behedyak ksiva. Chuppah is stated elsewhere. That's already, you get chenek. Yeah, Nara b'sula me'urasa ish. The pasuk says, she's a Nara, and she's a b'sula, and she's me'urasa ish. Nara v'lo bogeres. Nara to exclude someone, she's bogeres. She's 12 months and 6 days, and 6 months. 12 years and 6 months. B'sula v'lo b'ula. Sula comes to exclude a woman who hasn't been together with a man before. Murasa, who's been together with a man before. Murasa v'lo nesua. Murasa means she's engaged, not that she's married. Mine is nesua. What does it mean that she's married? Ilema nesua mamish. They really married. They're consummated. They're married. That bia. Haina b'sula v'lo b'ula. She's already a b'ula. Elav shenich l'chuppah v'lo nevela. Must be talking nesua. Comes to tell me that once she goes on the wedding cannon, it could be, even though they weren't together yet, she's fully considered Nesua, and therefore there's no din of Namur Rasa. If she commits adultery, she would only be Chayav Chenek. So therefore, Lizon Pesavia is free to teach me that even Masira, the Shluchei Habal, that's considered to be now worthy of Chenek and not worthy of Skila. That's the conclusion of today's shir. Hope you enjoyed. You better have enjoyed. It was a fun shir. And we're going to talk in Ian Ben on the Ian portion of the Daf, separate segment, about what I explained over here. The Masira to the Shluchei Abal is basically her walking down the aisle with the parents of the groom, the bridegroom. And why is it that at that point the only thing that the husband is entitled to is the Yerusha, which basically the dowry that she promised to give, the father-in-law promised to give to his chassan. He's entitled to that, but to nothing else. We'll explain that more in Yonat Ben Sion coming up next.